Toothpaste, tennis balls, and potato chips close up. How did you do? As many as 100 points for each one you identified before that pelican went to work. And while he's at rest for a moment, here's a bonus question. 100 points if you can tell me the state in which the potato chip was born. 2 clues. It's in the Northeast, and it happened in a resort city famous for its springs. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. A 100-point bonus if you said New York State, where in 1865, in Saratoga Springs, a hotel chef lost his patience with a guest who kept insisting on thinner and thinner French fries. The chef, in desperation, took a potato and cut it into wafer-thin slices and then dropped them all into the hot oil. He served them to the guests, and he got the good news and the bad news at the same time. They were absolutely delicious. But you couldn't have just one. Just like our games and challenges. So we'll play close-ups again later on. But now, we'll test your memory for years as we play Blind Date. Now, this is a 3-part game, this time about outer space, a set of fabulous wheels, and the White House. It's multiple choice with 100 points for each year you choose correctly. Blind Date.
The lunar rover, the moon buggy. In which of these years did the moon buggy first test these giant potholes in the sky? This classy chassis is the Cord A10, a legend from America's past. How about those hidden headlights? Blind Date. In which of these years did the Cord A10 make its dazzling debut? Blind Date number 3. In which of these years did the final flock of sheep graze on the White House lawn? A clue. The president was Woodrow Wilson.
All right, the moon buggy, 1971. That fabulous Cord car, 1935. And those sheep grazing on President Wilson's lawn, that was way back in 1913. So you take 100 points for each correct answer. 2 men drove that lunar rover or moon buggy. For a 100-point bonus, here are 3 sets of names. You choose the correct pair. For the first moon buggy drivers, Buzz Aldrin and Mike Collins, David Scott and James Irwin, or Charles Conrad and Alan Bean. That's Aldrin and Collins, Scott and Irwin, or Conrad and Bean. Take the 100 points if you said it was David Scott and James Irwin who drove 17 long miles across that craggy surface and never saw a gas pump, stop sign, or traffic light. I guess if we go back up in 20 years from now, we probably won't be able to make a right turn on the red light. Our next game has questions about answers. We call it question marks. You're about to meet a group of people describing something we're all familiar with. Our question mark for 100 points. From their answers, see if you can figure out what these people are describing.
It has a taste of excitement.
I think it has a biting kind of smell, and I think it's sexy and sensual, and I love it.
I think it's powerful. And I think it's powerful. I'm really not sure why.
It reminds me of my husband because I love it.
As far as its smell, I find it very pungent in odor.
It tastes bad. Yeah. It stinks, and I don't like the smell.
It makes me nauseous.
A smell that nobody likes, or very few people, except for food. French food, by the way.
Deeply ethnic, offensive.
And I heard that a piece a day with a little wine keeps you healthy as hell.
Sexy, powerful, pungent, of course. Garlic. 100 points if you got it correct. It's a good word, garlic. It sounds strong. Want to try a good party game? Ask people what they would replace a well-known word with if that word was suddenly removed from the English language. For instance, rose. Would a rose by any other name still smell as sweet? Just for fun, we asked a group to create a new word for rose. If you went into the florist for a dozen, what would you call it?
Well, I think I would call it passion, because I find that usually that is the emotion that
it creates in the people that receives them.
I'd go into a florist and ask for a dozen Love and Beauties.
I would call it a perfect, as in, give me a dozen perfects.
Well, if I was a man, I would go in and say, give me the key to every woman's heart.
Baby red hearts, because it's synonymous with love and affection.
Red love buds.
I would ask for a girl's best friend.
Oh, I would call it a baby's cheeks, something that you'd like to come home to at the end of a long, hard day and just feel.
I would call them makeups, because chicks love it.
That's fun. Try that at a party sometime. Our next game, an all-expense-paid trip. We call it Where in the World? All you have to do for 100 points is figure out where you are. Fewer points if the Pelican beats you to them. Where in the world? 'San Francisco, a nice place to visit or live, except for one tumultuous year in this century, the year of the San Francisco earthquake. A 100-point bonus if after taking a look at our rare films of the aftermath of that famous quake, you can come within 5 years of naming the year it all happened. So study the clothes, the carriages, take a good look. $100 points if you came within 5 years of the year of the San Francisco earthquake. It was 1906. To be exact, 5:13 a.m. on April 18th, 1906, when San Andreas, the granddaddy of the California earthquake faults, began to grumble. The $7 million City Hall was first to go. Then the giant glass dome of the Palace Hotel shattered in a shower of splinters. 1906. In San Francisco. Okay, our next stop is Super Shop, our international game of advertising. We have a warehouse full of items from all over the world, all for sale. For 100 points, we want you to figure out what's for sale. Today, we go to our Japanese boutique. See if you can figure out what this man is trying to sell you.
こんにちは、小針翔です。ホールインワンの確率はおおよそ9000分の1。プロが2000発近く打っても一つも入らなかったという話もあるほどです。だから私もここにこうしていられるわけです。めったに入るものじゃありません。それでもやっぱりホールインワンというのは起きるんですよね。
Okay, watch out. Now you tell me, for 100 points, what is that man selling? 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Play it again, Sam.
だから私もここにこうしていられるわけです。めったに入るものじゃありません。それでもやっぱりホールインワンというのは起きるんですよね。いやー。
万が一のためです。東京海上の損害保険。
Insurance. So 100 points if you made the connection. Our next game is pure action. It's called the Early Line, where we ask you to pick the winners of great sports events from the past. Today, 100 points if you can pick the winner of the 1940 National Football League Championship game. Do you like the Washington Redskins, led by Hall of Famer Sammy Baugh? Or would you prefer the Chicago Bears, led by another superstar, quarterback Sid Luckman? Here's a little help. The Skins beat the Bears 7-3 during the regular season. The championship game today will be played on the Redskins' home field. 36,000 fans are there, ready for action, so you make your pick. For 100 points, do you like the Bears or the home team Redskins?
December 8th, 1940. Bill Osmanski of the Chicago Bears is off on an early touchdown run against the favored Washington Redskins. But the Skins will come back, right? Well, moments later, 2 quick breaks and 2 more long runs the count to 21-0 Bears. It could be a long day for Washington. Sid Luckman's pass to Ken Cavanaugh brings the Bear total to 28-0 at halftime. The third period, all Chicago. More and more Bears keep crossing the Redskin goal line. How would you like the Redskins plus 70 points right now? Don't take it. Bulldog Turner's touchdown right here runs the final to 73-0 Chicago, the greatest rout in championship game history.
73-0. Oh, well, it's okay, guys. I would have picked the Redskins, too. You know, they just missed a touchdown early in the game, which would have tied the score at 7-7. Later on, somebody asked the Skins' Sammy Baugh if he thought that might have made a difference. Yeah, Sammy said it would have made the final score 73-7. And since that brings us to halftime, let's check our own scoreboard. We've played 6 games, plus a bunch of bonus questions for a total of 1,300 points. How are you doing? How about some more bonus points right now? 300 of them, all if you can name the authors of 3 well-known books. For 100 points each, write down these authors. Who wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull? Great Expectations. Peanuts. The answers? Okay, Richard Bach wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Charles Dickens, Great Expectations. And Peanuts in all its many forms is the creation of Charles Schulz. Now another 100 points, and we will trust you if you saw one of those books come to life here on the Entertainment Channel. The answer? Great Expectations. Our next game, Family Tree. We'll show you the evolution of a well-known object or product through the years. See how soon you can identify the product or the object as we go all the way back to its roots. 100 points or less. Family Tree. The Mercedes-Benz. Why Mercedes-Benz? Because in 1899, the official driver for the company had a daughter named Mercedes, and he persuaded his bosses to name their new model after her. Suppose she had been named Helen or Gertrude. The Gertrude Benz. Well, that's how history gets made, sometimes. We have a big game coming up, a possible 600 points. Hearts and Flowers. It's a game all about love. In today's game, 6 good love stories starring Elizabeth Taylor. For 100 points each, all you have to do is identify her first 6 husbands. Hearts and Flowers.
Elizabeth Taylor in 1976. Can you name the man who that year became husband number 6? He was a former Secretary of the Navy. Remember? 5 more chances if you missed that one. In 1950, Liz married husband number 1. Wasn't she beautiful? Here he is. He was the son of a famous hotel tycoon. They went off on a 3-month honeymoon to Europe, but 3 months later, the honeymoon and the marriage were over. In 1952, Liz was welcomed to London, where she married husband number 2. Remember the handsome British actor? They enjoyed a 5-year marriage. In 1957, Liz took groom number 3. She never looked more beautiful. They had a terrific marriage, which ended tragically when he died in the crash of his private airplane. Remember husband number 3? Husband number 4 was a popular singer who took the world by surprise when he turned up as Elizabeth's beau. She later said, "I married him because he needed me." But 3 years later, the media was full of messages about a new romance. She married him twice, but you still just get 100 points for identifying this world-famous actor. Hearts and flowers to a beautiful lady who, in the midst of these 6 marriages, made the rare transition from child star to superstar, Elizabeth Taylor.
All right, 100 points each for John Warner, and then back to Nicky Hilton, Michael Wilding, Mike Todd, Eddie Fisher, and Richard Burton. A remarkable actress and a remarkable lady. Elizabeth Taylor, Hilton, Wilding, Todd, Fisher, Burton, Warner. I promise you another game of close-ups, and I have not forgotten. A possible 300 points for identifying 3 everyday objects seen in a not-so-everyday way. Close-ups. Close-ups of a red pepper, asparagus, and strawberries. A few of you vegetarians may have swept all 3. In fact, you may have all 3 for dinner tonight. Did you know that famous vegetarians include Horace Greeley, George Bernard Shaw, Mahatma Gandhi, and Adolf Hitler? Next up, round 2 of Blind Date. 300 points in this game if you can remember some of the best years of our lives. Blind Date.
Did you know that Franklin Delano Roosevelt ran for vice president before he was stricken by polio and lost the use of his legs? There's Eleanor. In which of these years did the vigorous young FDR run for vice president of the United States? His running mate was James Cox. They lost to Warren Harding and Calvin Coolidge. What a way to go, to work, to the beach, or to grandmother's house. This is the Rocket Belt from the Bell Aerosystems Company. Blind Date. In which year did this one-person flying belt make its first successful test flight? Fashions for the lady of 19... Well, you figure out the year. Beach pajamas over a matching bathing suit. Just stunning. But just when? In which year was all this all part of Milady's wardrobe.
Franklin Roosevelt ran for vice president in 1920. The rocket belt, well, that surprised me. That came along way back in 1961. And those fabulous beach fashions were the rage in 1931. So it's 100 points for each correct answer. And 100 more for this bonus question. Franklin Roosevelt was one of only 2 Americans who in the 20th century have appeared as the presidential or vice presidential candidate of the Republican or Democratic Party 5 times. Now, we just saw FDR running for vice president in 1920. He ran for president in 1932, 36, 40, and 44. Who was the other American who ran for president or vice president 5 times in this century on the Democratic or the Republican ticket? 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. 100 points if you said Richard Nixon, who ran for vice president in 52 and 56 and ran for president in 1960, 68, and 72. Our final game, 9 easy pieces. For 100 points or less, see how quickly you can identify a well-known personality from our picture puzzle. 9 easy pieces. Elvis Presley, a legend whom some parents abhorred, most women adored, and an army of young men admired. Before our final burst of bonus points, let's take a last look at our scoreboard. We've played 11 games to date and added bonus questions for a total of 3,200 points. To roll up your score right now, we suggest you pay close attention to our regular finale feature, which is the Quickies Competition. 50 points each. Write down your answers. Here I am with the Quickies. Is a newborn kangaroo closer to 1 inch in size or 1 foot in size? Who is Pete Best? Are there closer to 100, 200, or 300 impressions or dimples on a golf ball? All right, now here are the answers to today's Quickies. 50 points each. A newborn kangaroo is about 1 inch in size. Pete Best was the original drummer for the Beatles, later replaced by Ringo Starr. And there are 300 dimples on a golf ball. So it's 50 points for each Quickie that you caught up to. Which brings to a close this edition of Just for Fun. I hope you've piled up plenty of points and enjoyed all the different challenges we gave you. And remember, keep an eye on what's happening today, because that's where we'll find our games for tomorrow. I'm Bill Boggs. Bye-bye.